Well, it seems that everybody is scared these days. Today is March 26th. Well, everybody seems to have been ordered to stay at home. I'm not sure whether what is happening outside. Maybe there are dinosaurs roaming the street, or maybe a meteorite is going to fall down and hit the earth. So everybody have to stay home. But why? Why do we have to follow such orders issued by the government for us to stay home and not to go outside, to close schools, not to go to beaches, not to go to parks either, and everything has to be closed? For what? For something that we say coronavirus is a new thing, right? But the actual thing is quite old. It's a flu or a common cold, or in its quite weak form. Symptoms like coughing, headache, fever, etc. A lot of people will simply don't know whether they have caught it or not. So what is about? The issue that we have to handle here is something quite primitive, quite old. It's nothing new, right? Just like the flu or like the cold, it's nothing new. With a new name, coronavirus, Wuhan virus, China virus, as President Trump insists to call it. But anyhow, it's a very old thing that causes this fear. So why are we scared? So scared that we allow the government to lock us up as prisoners at home just to care for our health. The reason why we have fear is that we know it a lot. We know a lot about it. A lot of them are quite certain, but one thing is uncertain, right? Whether we are so-called the 1% who have to die because of this coronavirus flu. We are not sure about this very little thing, and we try very hard to protect ourselves by not falling into the victims of this so-called 1%, right? That's the cause of our fear. But we won't fear about earthquake, about meteorite hitting on Earth, about tsunami, or even about depression or economic recession. We fear about, well, I may be within the 3.5% of unemployment rate. That's what I have to be scared about, right? So the thing about fear is that I can do something to avoid it, but if I fail to do that little thing, I have to be responsible for my failure. So I have to be fear about. That's the thing. Not about, well, outside enemies are coming and shooting around with machine guns. Well, for that kind of thing we'll be quite calm. Well, death is imminent, right? But in case a little bit of flu may hit us and then we become sick, the hospital will be full. Maybe we could be cured by very old medicine, but anyhow we see people dying in Wuhan, in Italy, in Spain. Hospital workers are quite busy in the US, etc. Then we will be feared because we have to be alert that we may fall into this very little miserable group of pitiable beings, and we don't want into that group, right? Then we want to do something to get out of this very small group, and we can do a little bit about it. Things like, well, wearing a surgical mask, like a doctor does in the hospital, or avoid going to crowds, wash hands quite often. Well, a lot of things we have done, but we see a lot of people imitating us, right? Everybody on the street, like in Hong Kong, or in South Korea, in Taiwan, or in China, are all wearing masks, washing hands. People coming back from foreign countries are put into quarantine. Well, that's it. When everybody did the same thing, and I do the same thing, then I will be scared because I'm not doing right enough. I'm not doing well enough, so that I will fall into that very small group of 1% miserable being. So I want to do more, but I can't do anything more, right? I have to wear a mask every day, wash hands, avoid going to the restaurants. So now comes the almighty government to offer you extra help so that you will be quite sure that you won't catch that disease. What the government want to do, lock you up, don't allow you to get in touch with your friends. Well, if you're unfortunately, a very old friend or old relative of you died in hospital, you should not attend his or her funeral and let her get past or get disappeared alone. Well, in common situation, in normal life, we won't let this happen. But in this very acute, severe situation, we will allow this to happen just because we want to protect us from a very small part of uncertainty. And this small part of uncertainty is to be called failed people, or people who don't do enough to protect themselves. Now the government comes in and help you to do. What you can do is that you accept. Well, that's the trick that a lot of government is now doing. In the past, when a lot of things outbreak or death in Italy, in China, the governments in the UK, New Zealand, Australia, US didn't do anything. They assure you that it's just a common flu and nothing should be done. Just take it easy. We have influenza that kills much more people in figures than this Wuhan coronavirus. But after a while, when everybody gets scared of the pictures sending here and there about authorities from this side or that side sending you different information, and the government say, don't say anything to respond to this information from this side or that side, then gradually you will form a mind picture that this thing could be quite terrible and the government is not doing enough. And suddenly the government comes in and give you a lot of protection, a lot of things that take away your security, take away your freedom, take away your civilian right, and you don't know why. And let me tell you one thing. What the government or what the big rich people, the big rich corporation are trying to do. One thing, just one thing. Disconnect you from your friends, disconnect you from the crowd, from the common places that you visit, and then connect you with an internet, iPhones, WhatsApps, and a lot of apparatus linked together to a big data collection bank, and that will analyze everything that you do now at home with your iPhone when you are alone covering with your face mask. Everything will be uncovered and collected by those big data. And when you can't go to the shops to buy things, you order things online, right? By, well, telling people what you want. Choose a spectrum of goods and what color you want to pick up. All the processes are being tracked, collected, closely monitored for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, or even more. And you are totally under monitoring. And that's something, even wartime, even when you're put into prison, people cannot do anything about it. But this coronavirus from China give you the chance, give the government a chance to do something about it. And actually, the government in China has been doing things like this in Wuhan, in Hubei province, in Shanghai for 3 months, and this will not disappear. And now the Western democracies, the so-called free democracies of the Western world, is going to imitate this. But of course, not to that extent of China did, but in a more less observable way. So be sure that what you are now doing, what you are now feeling, could be just a social experiment of cultural engineering. And of course, after that, you will know. But when you are in, you won't know. And that's why I try to explain to you in quite a painful way, because you won't be convinced. Well, it's quite difficult to convince somebody who lives in fear, but at least spend some time. Look at your pocket. Look at your identity card. Look at your QR code of the iPhone, of your internet. How much time you are spending it now, and how much time you are not spending with friends, relatives, colleagues that you trust, and what you have lost in this period of total quarantine.